You can use our content in the Deutsche Bahn, you can use our content there, but don't you dare sending it to Spotify.
If they don't acquire enough customers, they will die.
Suddenly you have like this huge opportunity. Now everybody comes to us.
In the crisis mode, we found a good opportunity.
Limited amount of time. If you get great people, even with like 5 hours a week, can completely change your business.
I was like, okay, cool, that's enough time to prepare the pitch and everything. And the day after they called again and said, hey, does next Thursday work for you as well?
Wow. Okay, if they partner with them, maybe there's something about this.
Well, Lucas, thanks for coming today. What's Articly?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Un placer. We are doing Articly, which is sort of the app for audio news journalism in Germany. What does that mean? So basically what we are doing is we translate the articles that you could read on very traditional newspapers, magazines, the leading ones in Germany. We translate those articles with voice actors into mini audio books. We call it audio articles, of course. So that's usually 6 to 12 minute long pieces that you can listen to, and it makes it easier for users who rather like to listen instead of reading, to follow the news, but not just the breaking news, but rather the long form journalism, so they can maybe dive deeper into a certain topic and really get the quality journalism that they might not get just by swiping through social media or so. So they got deep into new topics. Yeah,
that's awesome. Would they need every subscription to every newspaper to get to it?
No, the good part is it's a platform. So we combine the pieces from Die Welt, Süddeutsche, Handelsblatt. That's the likes. Like the New York Times, Washington Post in the US, the German versions, I would say. So really quality, high class newspapers. All in the one app, and they don't need the other subscriptions. If they want to read these newspapers, of course, they have to go to the original source. But if they just want to listen to the audio articles, that's what they get on our platform, all in one bundle. That's $6.99, or well, even less than that if you have the annual subscription. So it's a good deal.
And how would that work for the main newspapers that are providing the content? Are they pissed? Do they like it? Do they get new users? Because I guess it would be the same users, a different format.
Well, yeah, it depends. So there is a traditionally they are not really loving platforms. If you go to like a publishing house, very old school, very conservative, they don't come to you and say, hey, we love you, let's give you all the content we have, you can do whatever you want. That's not gonna work. So the way it works is that we, with the big corporates, we usually buy the licenses to the articles and buy licenses to make audios out of the articles. So they get a direct payment for their intellectual property, basically. We can't just like steal it. So that's one model, but we have a lot of different models. Another model is sort of the Spotify way, if you wish. So that means we are paying the publishing houses more if the article is consumed more on our platform. So if you listen to the latest article about Israel from Die Welt, then Die Welt would profit together with us from the success of their article. So that's a second model, and the third model is also like a sharing. Basically, we get the article, the text, and the publishing house gets the audio, and they can put it on their website. So there's multiple models that we are using to be in a good cooperation with the publishing houses, with the media, which helps us, increase our user base, increase the content base that we have, but also is giving the publishing houses a new stream of potential users, readers. And of course, a new stream of revenue. Yeah.
Because the thesis is that you will bring new users that before they were not using the newspaper, then they were not being updated like that, or is it you go to the whoever newspaper and tell them, look, guys, you need to transform your format. We're going to do it for you because your users will demand something different, or is it bringing new people in? Like I don't.
So. Just from my side, I think we picked a good time for it because the idea we had is not like revolutionary, especially the aggregator idea. Like people have been demanding a service where you pay one subscription, like Netflix for movies or series, like Spotify for music, like Audible for audiobooks. Nothing ever existed in that way for journalism. And that's a good thing about it because in every startup conversation, people ask you, what problem are you solving? What's the idea? And the thing is, the problem we're solving is not the problem. The challenge, it's the execution. Because it's very common knowledge that people, like if you ask 100 people, everybody would say, yes, of course, I would love to pay one subscription and get the content from multiple media houses and not pay an average of 40 euros a month for journalism per newspaper, I have to say. So that's a very good momentum, and that forces some of the publishers to move towards our direction. Because they are struggling at the moment. It's a very tough business. People are not paying as much for journalism as they should. There's several reasons, and that would be like a whole new podcast episode to discuss this. So we picked a good time, and especially with the new format of audio. The publishers are more reluctant to share their texts because we are killing their readers. We're taking the readers from them, but you can't read it Articly. So we are taking listeners they don't have anyway.
Okay.
So we're giving their articles a new stage to people that often do not have a subscription at all. And because we only upload like a fraction of the articles, we never replicate a newspaper one-on-one.
It is never the full article there.
It's the full article, but not the full magazine or the full newspaper.
Okay, yeah.
Because we only focus on the evergreen content, articles that are, like Wolf said, 6 to 12 minutes long, the long pieces that have a long duration that you can listen to like a month later and it's still relevant.
Okay.
And so they say, oh, here, Articly, take these articles, see how they work out on audio, and ideally you give us some new customers back, some new subscribers, because we tease them with the content on Articly, and now they have to buy our subscription to actually get more content.
Okay, so the buy-in for the big media, let's say, that is, we're allowing you to get to more users, and then you can tease them with your best pieces of knowledge, and then because they will know that we exist, they will come and pay the full subscription and have access to the rest of my content.
Yeah, so the people,
that's what they think.
Yeah, the people it's always hard to actually take the data because for obvious data protection reasons, we just can't exchange names of our customers with their names and say, is there a match?
Yeah.
We can do like surveys and ask our customers, do you have any subscription? And more than 80% of the respondents to our surveys, obviously that's not the most objective data, we have to say, they said, I don't have any subscription at all. I'm just paying for your service and
that's interesting.
Get a bit of everything. So this is a good argument we can bring up when we talk to the publisher.
Yeah, well, of course, I guess it makes sense from the user's perspective to say, I'm going to pay $6.99 and I have access to all these database, but then I don't know how the maths run if you actually have to pay in the Spotify model and you have to pay 0.09 per article and you have an insane amount of database of users listen to it.
Yeah, well, the good part here is it scales quite well, right? It's a digital business model, so we buy the articles once, and then it doesn't matter if it's like 10 users listening to the article or 1 million users. We still normally pay more or less the same amount. Yes, there is a few stages or thresholds here, but it's usually scaling quite well because the costs are more or less the same, no matter if it's like a small user base or a big user base, which is of course nice for us when the success kicks in.
But that's only for the first model, meaning for when you buy the licenses. If you do the Spotify model.
Yeah, so we're very, very cautious about the Spotify model because it's common knowledge that Spotify up to this date is not profitable, and they even have like less partners they have to pay out because the music labels, there's way less music labels than there is publishers. That's why it's such a complex market, and we are piloting it, and we had setting like ceilings up to a certain point, and when Articly really gets some scope, we have to rethink like this model. And I think there won't be a time when this will be Articly will only be pay per listen, because as you said, the costs for the articles can easily outweigh the subscription. if like every user, that would be the dream, listens to like 100 articles a week.
Yeah.
Well, oh shit, it's gonna be expensive. So it might transform into like a similar pooling idea like they have it at Spotify. So let's say this is the total revenue we got from subscriptions, and then you get a share of this based on how many articles were listened from your publisher, and that's like a percentage value and not like an absolute value. So let's say if your articles from Handelsblatt were listened like 30% of the time, you would get a 30% payout of the total share. But this is just the future speaking, so this is not something we have in place, but something we have to be aware of, because that can be, especially in today's times, no investor really likes if you say, hey, I have a huge risk that I'm paying like 10 times more than I'm earning.
You will always have risks attached to your business, as long as you know which risks are and how to cope with them.
Yeah. And we are just like in business for, let's say, 2 years now, and of course we still need to attract new potential cooperation partners, being it newspapers or magazines or publishing houses, and that's why we are trying with them the models that work best for them, right? So that's why the Spotify model is one that we are trying, and of course, the number, the euros per listen, that will change. But maybe this is not gonna be the final model. That's something we're trying to figure out right now. Yeah.
How many readers do you have? How many listeners do you have now?
Yeah, well, it depends on which platform. So what we are talking about right now was just our app, right? So that's an app that is available on Android, on iOS. You have to download it and pay a subscription. That's like a, let's say, 5-digit number of listeners that we have. We also distribute our content on other platforms. For example, very fresh from the last couple of months is a cooperation with the German train, so Deutsche Bahn. So you can, on their entertainment system, if you hop on a train, drive from Frankfurt to Berlin or something, you can log into the Wi-Fi and automatically there opens an entertainment system. And they, gave us the numbers that we're under the top 3 of most consumed content in the train, which is quite nice, and also kind of giving us proof for one assumption that we have, which was Articly is happening in the mobility context. So a lot of people traveling, commuting to work and so on are using Articly because hands-free and so on. So that's one distribution channel. We have a bunch of others too. So I would assume our total reach, if you add up all, is maybe even a 6-digit number right now. That's the current.
And I think one thing to add is that as a B2C company, I think we really took off like in end of April this year, due to the TV show Die Höhle der Löwen, which is like the German Shark Tank, or
we were going to get there.
Dragon's Den. And apart from that, we have not invested in significant marketing measures. So most of the traffic and listeners received is like word of mouth and organic users, which is a good sign, because we will talk about later, the current funding situation is like, this is more or less a bootstrapped plus situation, like where we had like one little angel push from like a pretty well-known investor, and the rest was like we just earned from these media representations. So this can scale pretty quickly if you put our own marketing measures behind it.
I mean, I think your case is quite interesting in that sense, but we will get there a bit later. First, like, I wanted to understand a bit more, like in this case of Deutsche Bahn, which I think it's very clever from your side to partner with them, because of course you're in the train and you're thinking, well, could be informed now about things. But do you get then, is it a white label, or do they use Articly? They know they're using Articly.
In that case, yes, it says Articly, and after every article, there's actually even like a small spot where we say, hey, this Articly, it's also an app, you can download it, you can also listen to it at home, you don't have to do it in a train. This is our brand, so you see our branding, it is more or less the same articles, just like a reduced number, so you can't listen to all articles that we are producing on the train. That's only available in our app. But the white label, because you already mentioned it, it is also a topic. So we are in conversations with German auto manufacturers. So they also have entertainment systems. They also trying to push those entertainment systems, because everyone, I guess, knows when you're driving a car, you usually plug in your phone or connect it with Bluetooth, and then you're ready to use your Apple CarPlay or anything. And the car manufacturers are quite suffering under this threat of Apple CarPlay. And so they're thinking about, okay, what can we do to make it more attractive for our drivers to be in the car and to use our entertainment system. And this could also be one angle that we're distributing. Nothing official in that sense, but one idea that we're having, or a few things that are starting right now. So again, mobility, not only train, but also driving in your own car. Could be a distribution channel. In this case, maybe even a white label solution. But there's also one, threat with the white label, that is, the license agreements that we have, right? So a publishing house has a license agreement with us. It is Articly, and it is for Articly. So we, need to renegotiate, I guess, if you go like a full white label way, and say, okay, it doesn't have to be Articly, it could be Wyra News. Then I'm not sure if all providers or all content providers would say, yeah, no problem, let's do it, or if we have to set up new contracts. But generally, it's a good idea and a good thing to do, and go into like a white label format as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
I think one key point to understand like how Articly evolved in terms of the business model for you and the listeners is, when we started, it was only the app we talked about. We bought content, we used our own speakers, we added value to that content, we uploaded it into the app, people listened to it. At some point, the first publishers came to us and said, hey, now you have really good audio versions of our articles like that we don't have. Yeah. Can we maybe like buy them back or get them for our website? So out of this, we have evolved like a couple of B2B business models, where we say in the simplest form, okay, we use our speakers to make audio of your content. So for example, with Focus Magazine, which is one of the biggest magazines in Germany, we currently have a pilot that we make the audio version of the articles, and we can use them in our app. So we give them the audio for usage in their print magazine. We have it right here. So you can just show it, Wolf.
Yeah. So what we did here, that's print hard copy, like very old school, yes. So we still love it because what they did is to say, hey, that was an offering that we started. Put a QR code into the actual magazine, and behind that QR code that's fully powered by Articly, there is the possibility to actually listen to that article. And that's the case with multiple articles that I have here. So that's basically a service that we sell to Focus, to that publishing house, which is also, I would say, like top 3 magazines in Germany. And they, of course, offer a new way of experiencing their content to their users or to their readership. And, we also have the opportunity to track more than they could ever do in a hard copy magazine, right? So we know, okay, the article back here, not a lot of people go there and actually, scan the QR code, listen to it. But the first ones, they do a lot. And that's an added value that we can give to like a very traditional format, like a print copy, with kind of a hybrid way, right? So you can scan it. To listen to it, in that case, you don't even need the app directly. So that's like a web version of the audios. But if you want to listen more, of course, you would also need the Articly app. But that's rather a white label version.
Yeah, because you cannot see Articly there within. You need to open it, and then you will see, right?
Yeah, exactly. It says powered by Articly then, but it's still the Focus design and brand behind that.
Okay.
And that's like the most logical transition. Okay, we have great speakers, we have a great network, we have great resources, we offer them to others. But there we're not speaking about a really scalable solution, because you would still need actual speakers to speak all the content.
Yep.
So the next step, I hate using like big buzzwords here, but the next big topic is like the AI discussion, especially text-to-speech software and text modification. 2 elements that really transform the German publishing business. This is one of the oldest industries we have. It's an industry where you have basically no startups. Like if you look up for startups in the German publishing business, you don't have any publishers.
Yeah.
I don't know when the last big publisher was founded. And you have some media monitoring startups, but that's about it. So we are in a pretty privileged and tough situation, being a startup in a field where there are basically no startups. So there are no good processes, like for example with Vaira, where you have like, okay, this is how corporations cooperate with startups. This doesn't exist in the publishing business. But now we have positioned ourselves as like a player that understands audio in this business. So they come for us for advice. How can we leverage AI? How can we modify our articles to put like 10 articles into one short audio, like our magazine in 100 seconds?
Yeah.
Something like this. And our CTO, who worked at Spotify before, Noor, he's just a great guy. And we have like technological knowledge that is like obviously for a startup really efficient, and we can get it to action really fast. So we are actually helping publishers, but also like corporations to transform what they have as an audio, put it through our AI engine. Obviously, we don't have our own AI engine, but we have smart ways of leveraging existing technology because we are not an AI research company. And then we are offering services to them, like audio as a service, you can imagine, where you say, okay, here's 15, like basic example, you have 15 emails, and you put it into our system, you get like a 30-second summary of what was in those emails that you just received. And this use case, you can leverage it to many, many, many business use cases. And so this is like a big area for us. Like, what's the focus right now?
Yeah, I was going to tell you that much more than newspapers. Right?
Yeah, and this is like something where speaking about pivots that you don't expect in the beginning, but suddenly you have like this huge opportunity. And like, okay, now everybody comes to us with advice for like AI and audio. And we're like, okay, that's not where we started, but that's definitely something where we can go.
Yeah, because so trying to understand a little bit more what the process is with your speakers. So the added value would be that your speakers are super good, and when you read the article, it actually is not an AI voice 100%. It is someone that is actually adding something to the text, but this doesn't scale. So at some point you will need to, the software is being already more than, so it will come to the point where you can actually tune the emphasis and the enthusiasm of the speaker, even if it's an AI, and I guess you are on it too. But how that will scale for you right now in like late 2023?
Yeah. So I think there's like, maybe we can take a step back to explain why would you even need audio in the newspaper industry, I would say. There is different studies on how you collect information and keep it and you remember what you've read versus what you have listened to. And there's this, it's called the cone of experience. It's a study from Edgar Dale. And he says if you listen to information, you maybe keep 20% of the information that you've listened to. If you read it, it's only 10%. So you lose a lot in any case, but at least it's like double the amount of information that you can keep and remember after a few weeks still. So we ask ourselves, and we also did some research, why is that the case? And it's usually the case because of an emotionalization of the content or the context that you could either read or listen. As soon as someone is reading it out to you with pronunciation, with pauses and everything, it gets a bit more lively, the content that is usually black letters on white paper. If it's read out to you, narrated well, then you can keep more information. So that's why a lot of people prefer the listening over the reading. And that's also why a lot of people appreciate that we have real narrators, right? Real voice actors in our app. Looking 1 or 2 years back, there was like no voice technology, text-to-speech software that was getting any close to a real person. and every time you would like click on the news websites, there is sometimes this button you can click and read it out. It's like a computer voice, and after 2 sentences you fall asleep or something else happens with you. It's not a lot of fun, not a good experience, and not this emotion that an actual voice would bring to you. So that's why we said, okay, 100% just professional voice actors, professional narrators in our app. But that changed a bit right now. So there is a few first models, as you described, which are very hard to distinguish between, like, is it an AI voice or a human voice? In German language, it took a bit longer. Even I think English is farther there. But now that this is happening, this is taking place, gives us new business challenges on the one hand side, but also, of course, opportunities. So we could just say, hey, it's way cheaper now to produce articles, which is one way to look at it. Maybe not our preferred way to look at it, because we have like great relationships to our speakers. They are part of the entire project from day one. But there are certain use cases where AI voices, AI text-to-speech is coming in. For example, if we say, okay, we want to get a bit faster, we want to summarize certain text, for example, from foreign publications. If you say, okay, there's like a great article in El País, no one in Germany could understand it. Let's translate it into German, summarize it into German, and then an AI voice is reading it out. So we get kind of a new parts of our product together, which helps with AI. So we're having lots of different use cases. We're trying out. We're also constantly trying which ones are the best. In the beginning, it was the major cloud providers, AWS, Google, and so on. Right now, it's rather startups that have the best AI voices. And we are kind of like tweaking it to find out, okay, what makes a good voice special, especially for reading out like information-heavy text like newspaper articles are. Yeah.
What are the ones you like the most?
So there are startups like 11 Labs, for example, which is quite good. You also have to, you can tweak and twist these voices a bit. That works well. For a long time, it was Google actually, but then at some point they were, surpassed by others. There's also some very small ones. One is called Naraket, which I think is like an individual person developing a great model there. And it constantly evolves, right? So every 2-3 months you have like a completely updated library of voices. And we even, try to clone our own voices. So I had Lucas say something about his football skills that he would never say himself, but the AI bot did it. So we're testing a lot and trying to get ahead of things and use the best voices we can find. Yeah.
What would be your outcome or your forecast for the next 2 years in terms of speech, the text to speech, this kind of technologies? Where do you think you would be in 2 years? I don't need to go that far.
I think this is a very interesting point of discussion. I think there will always be appreciation for great humanly narrated content, especially if you have like a big piece of content. Like text-to-speech software, I think even mid next year will be so good that you can do like a quick summary, that you have like a text that is not really heavy on emotions. You can have it read out by basically any text-to-speech software that is probably well known, and then you won't be able to distinguish it.
Yeah.
So I think there will be always a use case to have like special pieces with like the best narrators. I think the average narrator will have a problem in the future, but like the extremely good ones, they will be very hard to replace by an AI, and people actually get used to voices.
That's true.
People actually have their favorite speaker in our app. Everybody probably has a favorite speaker in our app. So there will be the case where we will offer like great humanly narrated content in our app, but we will have more and more, like Wolf said, summaries, for example, or little, like in Germany it's called Presseschau. I don't know how it's called in English. Like basically that's a summary of what happened in the news yesterday. Yeah. The news in 100 seconds.
Yeah.
We can easily build that using our own like large language model use cases plus text-to-speech. I think the combination would be really important, to modify content and then have it read out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in 2 years' time, it will be at a point where this will be no longer distinguishable. And even the summary will be extremely good, which is now a challenge.
Sure.
If you tell a German newspaper journalist that you've summarized the article, they will be like, no, this doesn't reflect the article at all. But we will be at a point where it will be.
Then they would be right in some point. Like,
Yeah, that's what we actually discovered from very early days on, that not all content pieces are good to read out. You don't like to listen to articles that have like 1,000 numbers. I don't know, the stock market report or so. If there's percent and revenue numbers, it's at some point too much for your brain to really comprehend what's going on. So it's rather the pieces that are have a narrational style. Basically, they tell a story. Reports, analyses, commentaries. So these are the kind of articles that work well. Sometimes they're very number driven. They don't work that well. But yeah, there is of course a few things that you could change from existing articles to make it sound better, which so far, as Lucas said, the publishers are quite hesitant to do. But there would be options, and I think we understand more and more what these things are. Also, the length of a sentence, for example. If it's a shorter sentence, it's easier to speak, which we have a problem in Germany with long sentences. But
and long
you
words.
might know that.
I think like because some of the listeners might wonder, like, okay, so anybody who can use an AI will be able to do what we do. So just type in, summarize this text, make an audio, and then you have Articly in the future. The thing is, what people underestimate is how much it takes to tweak a text to actually make it listenable, especially when you use AI. For example, like we have tens of thousands of listened articles. We understand that idea of audio because we have audio. We are the only player currently that has audio insights from multiple sources. Because every publisher, even if they have audio, they only have their own universe. It's hard to draw conclusions if you have only like a small number of articles, but we can draw from a big number of articles, and for us, we understand what makes an article easy to listen to and hard to listen to, and we have translated this into a old way of using AI to say, okay, because worst case, you sit there and you have to spend like an hour on one article and change some words, make some sentences shorter so that you can actually listen to it. Because I think from your own experience, if you actually want to listen to something for more than like 1 minute, it has to be really good. Otherwise, you just lose the attention.
The attention span is...
So if we don't tweak an article before we make it... And by tweaking, I don't mean change the content. Just apply the laws of audio that we understand to the article, then it's much easier to listen to. But if you were just to put an article one-on-one into text-to-speech, press play, you would still, even with the best text-to-speech software, have like a shitty article to listen to. So it's a lot of person for, and we think we're sitting on a great piece of technology there that a lot of partners can benefit from to use it for their own creation of audio material. And it can be anything. It can be like a newspaper article. It can be internal communications, stuff like this. Yeah.
And that's what's bringing you the customers, I guess. Like that's what's bringing you the clients. Because at the beginning, when I heard about you, I was thinking like, they should be really good doing marketing because the key of this company is going to be the customer acquisition. If they don't acquire enough customers, they will die. But as long as you're telling, while you were speaking, I was like, maybe they're thinking about it from the technology perspective and the content perspective, in the sense, if we deliver the proper content, the clients will come eventually because this is a need in the market. Is that the case, or you think that you're super strong as well? Because you said you don't spend too much in marketing. That doesn't mean you're not good in marketing. That actually can mean the opposite. That with little money you do a lot, especially if you get to 6-digit users. But what's the key then? Is it content based, and then you trust the people to spread the message? Or
I think one point is that it actually took more than 2 years to negotiate the licensing contracts, for example. This is not a business where everybody can just steal content. The German publishing business is probably the one in the world next to the music business, probably, where they have the most awareness of what's happening with their stuff.
Okay.
So, because even if you even if, let's say, Weira decide, okay, I want to do Articly. Even if you were to throw like $10 million at the German publishers, still many of them would say, no, we're not partnering with like a big international company. We're not partnering with companies at all. This is not a problem where you just throw money in it and you solve it, because this is a much deeper, tough negotiation. And we really had to position ourselves as like a partner that wants like a win-win situation. And we have big advantages as like a small German startup, rather than, for example, if Spotify came to the publishers. Because some publishers actually tell us, you can use our content in the Deutsche Bahn, you can use our content there, but don't you dare sending it to Spotify. This is like an actual quote we got. So they are very cautious who to partner with. So this is also like a USP if you want like the legal basis of having contracts with that many publishers that allow us to use their content.
So I guess the entry barrier is quite high to enter the market. That's why we're almost the only ones doing that platform business in the audio journalism in Germany, at least. We have a few players in the US and UK, which is quite nice to look at and see how they're developing quite successfully. So that could work in Germany as well. But if you say, is it rather the product that is pulling the users, or is it the marketing? I think it's always a bit of both, I guess. We, of course, are trying to build the best product that is possible in that environment. It is possible to build for us, and are going into a lot of feedback loops with users to constantly improve it. That's for sure. But I think the best product without any marketing, especially in this early phase, has no chance against competitors or the entire very noisy market out there. So we were lucky enough to be part of this TV show. That was the biggest marketing effect that we could think of, that helped us. And this was also just like the beginning of lots of different news outlets writing about us and spreading the word. And then of course word of mouth is an issue for us, and is helping us. The product in the end, we are looking at the numbers, how many users are staying for a month or longer, and are the retention rates, how are our churn rates. That's very important, because this is the indicator that shows us how well the product actually is, and not just the idea or the first impression. Yeah.
And I got stuck before going to the beginning of the company, which I think is interesting. I got stuck with what you said about Spotify. Like, they didn't want the content in Spotify. And I'm like, but if what they want from you is that first they want their content to be well presented, like let's say, and well said, and format that is nice, and then they want the leads, and they want the clients to use and to read and to listen, that content. Why not in Spotify? What's the problem that that Spotify is not paying back enough, or why do they hate that much Spotify?
I think it's like it's like an environment, a very traditionalist view that it is hard to understand for us. So they don't really think in this like ecosystems, or that people would all benefit from it. It's very much this invented here syndrome, maybe. Yeah. So if I'm a German publisher, I say, okay, I want my subscribers to subscribe to me and no one else, and I'm not sharing anything. It should all be very controllable by me. Problem is, the numbers of subscribers are declining a lot, so they have to figure out and find new ways. And we were lucky enough to identify a few contacts within the big corporates that are having this more innovative mindset, maybe the more ecosystem mindset, and thinking about making a cooperation with the startup, which is for a lot of companies unthinkable, especially in the news media outlet. But we've identified these contacts, and more are opening up for this. But up until now, they have like quite a closed shop. So they say, okay, we don't want to get it out there because we have the fear of entirely losing our subscribers at some point if the content is spread out everywhere. So that's basically a very, very different kind of environment that we're in. That is not the typical startup environment or industry environment, but people are very hesitant in the publishing houses to give out their content anywhere.
And will you lose your publishers if you get too successful? Because then they will say, "Oh no, they're like Spotify now."
Well, that would be a fear, but I guess we are trying to be in touch with the publishers the entire time and trying to make this like a very profitable or beneficial project for them as well. And that's why we're constantly updating them. And yes, we have already lost a few partners. A few came newly in. So it is always, there's always motion in the different publishers that you can listen to on Articly. But I think most of them, they would be the ones that we have right now would be happy if it's a success and they can benefit from it in what way ever. So yeah, I don't see that too much as a problem right now.
Okay, nice. Then we can now go for the beginnings of the company. So basically, for everyone to understand what were you doing and how did you decide to get in this mess, which is talking to the public houses and try to get the rights to publish their content and to do the speech news, etc. Why? How did it started? Where were you both? What happened?
Yeah, so back then, that was like more than 2 years ago now. I was still in a full-time position as a consultant for PwC. It was COVID times, not much hobbies, not much things that you could do outdoors, and that's why I decided to start a company. That's one part of the story. No, but from like it started from the basic user perspective. I'm someone who listens a lot to audiobooks, listens a lot to podcasts, and I was wondering how the hell can it be that there's not a good offering for newspaper articles out there in Germany. And then I was researching a bit, doing the first experiments, seeing that there is one in UK, there is one in the US, both having a great first Series A funding round, 10 million, 12 million, something like that. And I was thinking, okay, yeah, if that really is something that people like, and that's what I saw from my first experiments, and that's something that works in the UK and the US, let's do it in Germany as well. And I was in a very lean setup, starting the company, trying to acquire the first publishers, getting the first content pieces up and running. I was looking for narrators on various platforms, Upwork or Fiverr or and so on.
You had nothing to do with this world. You came from PwC. You were.
Well, so I got the family background in media. So both my parents used to be journalists. They are in the publishing space still. So I kind of knew this market a bit from my childhood on, basically. So I kind of have this feeling for the news market. As a student, I was also writing some articles. So I got in touch with journalism, but not in that professional way up until then. But yeah,
it was in your blood.
Maybe it's in my blood. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm a good author, but it was more the let's say the digitization challenge that kind of triggered me, because I was working lots of digital innovation projects with PwC, and it was kind of the challenge to see, hey, can we give this very traditional news market, a digital new technological push, and with audio articles, maybe that could be a thing. And then we kind of developed it with a very rough model first, then an app came out and so on. And at some point I talked to Lucas, and we met up in Berlin on a nice rooftop with beers, as you would imagine it in Berlin, sundowner, and he was telling me about his situation. He was back then living in Ireland, but he can tell about that in a second. And I was telling him, hey, I want to quit my corporate job. I want to go all in on Articly, on the entrepreneurial life. I'm not sure what you're doing, and I think he kind of thought about that longer and longer, and then at some point he came back and said, hey, let's do it. It's a nice challenge. I'm in, and that was 1 year ago that we started together, and ever since it got more and more traction, and it was the right step to say, hey, I'm really concentrating on that full time rather than having as a side hustle with not that much time. Yeah. Was that the right way to describe it, Lucas?
Yes, that was the right way to describe it. So Wolf and I, we know each other for more than 12 years now because we have studied in our bachelor's together.
Yeah.
And since then, our ways have like developed on their own. Like Wolf was going to London and then working at PwC. I was doing like a different path. I went to Rotterdam and then I went to Dublin to work for Google, where I've spent the past 5 years as an account executive. So I was consulting Google's biggest customers on how they can improve their marketing, especially their online marketing. How can they grow from their position? And in the beginning, it was like the smallest customers. So I was talking to like flower shops, small businesses.
Yeah.
So I got to know a lot of companies in all shapes and sizes, talking to the decision makers, understanding what is your problem, why are you not growing, figuring out how can I help them grow. And at some point I was like, okay, I've advised like 500 companies on how to grow. And there were some really cool success stories. But then I was like, at some point I have to prove it that I can do it with my own company.
I got to build a flower shop at some point. Okay,
yeah,
that makes
something
sense.
like this. So I had like a mental database. This is what it takes to acquire more customers. And then when Wolf said that there's going to be some traction coming in, he's quitting his job, I was like, oh, fuck it. I'm joining you. I'm joining you on this journey. Because for me, it was like a motivation. I was a bit afraid of the situation that I will be like 55, 60 at some point, looking back at my career. And in a case, I would have spent, 40 years at Google. Just take this example. And then I would look back and say, okay, this was pretty straightforward. There were no like ups and downs, some big changes of path, changes of direction. And I would have taken it pretty badly, I think, in the end. So I said, okay, now is a great time to do it because I won't be able to do it with such energy when I'm like 55 and come to this realization. So I said, now is the time where I'm only financially responsible for myself. I'm really happy that my parents are healthy. I don't have a house. I don't have a kid. So this is only like a quick depreciation of life quality for a short time going to the startup life. And I said, okay, this is totally worth it.
Yeah.
Like I can live with a cut paycheck. The experience I will make is like really good. So
How much was the payment cut, by the way? Roughly, like in percentage, like, or I don't want to.
I can say it took me, I think, 7 months working for Articly to get like one good month of Google salary with my bonus. So that's a pretty tough one.
It's not that bad. It could be. I've seen worse. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I joined and I'm focusing more on the marketing growth side, sales, finance. You have a lot of hats you put on in a startup, but that's like the area where I got in and joined the journey.
So there is this moment 1.5 years ago where one guy from PwC and one guy from Google that is not technical come together and they get along well. That's obvious. And you have a really nice idea. You're a user, like heavy user of that. I see the problem. I did my own market research on myself. Okay, let's see how scalable this is. And you don't have the technical power, which this happens quite frequently. How do you solve that? And how do you get to your CTO? How was that? Was it hard? How was that search?
Yeah, I think at that point I was thinking that software development is a commodity, so you can basically just buy it in. So we all
decision.
So back then we basically hired an agency that was developing the app for us. A few easy things we could still do on our own, but we're definitely no developers. But so back then it was an agency developing the iOS and Android app. Most of the guys were sitting in India, which has pros and cons. Pros are definitely the amount of money that you have transfer them. So that's less than when you do it in Europe, of course. But it was sometimes hard with communication. Sometimes hard to really get what you wanted. And then out of a nice coincidence, I would say, we kind of found and attracted Noor to our team. from Spotify who has like this technical experience. He was basically the third person that we needed in our, let's say, leadership team to complete us, and that was due to the lucky circumstances that most tech companies, they cutted a lot of positions, and that was sort of like our moment to say, okay, let's see who's on the market, if there's a suitable candidate for us. And with that, we kind of like came into contact with Noor the first time, and he was very, very positive about the idea. He was thinking this is a great challenge. Also, like from a corporate, we both made this experience to a startup, and ever since he's supporting us on multiple technical projects. In the end, he's not the developer of the app. Yeah, there's still a few other developers which are quite widespread, but a few of them are right now closer to us, and it's basically all in our hands and not in the hands of the agency anymore. That's quite a good setup to still keep it lean and use a lot of freelancers from all kind of directions, but still have like a knowledgeable and professional leadership team in their own areas, competencies. Yeah.
Do you go straight to Spotify layoffs? I'm going to find one of these, or
so it was like that happened on LinkedIn. I think some affected employees organized themselves and filled like a Google Sheets. So, and they said, hey, this is my name, this is who I am, this is what I want to do next, and here's my contact details.
Publicly available.
Publicly available.
Wow. Okay.
So we saw that, and then I think I knew how, like coming from a big tech company, what could be some arguments to catch somebody. And especially on a technical side, because he was a senior software engineer, it's like not at all affordable to us. Would be probably salary higher than the company valuation at the time. And the thing is that this is the great thing about working on a startup is the impact you have, especially on a technical side. It's like you have to like it. If you want to develop into a leadership position, I think you have to do it to start from scratch somewhere. Like here is an admin account to our IT architecture. What do you want to do next? Do you want to set up like a Google Cloud? We had nothing. We had to log in. Like, here's a login to Google Cloud.
Insane.
Like, do you know what to do with it? And fun fact, like when we had the interview with him, he asked us to bring like a tablet so that we can design our Articly architecture on like and draw it. And we're like, okay, so here's the app that was developed by an agency. Here's Wolf and myself. And we upload articles into this app.
Not what he expected, I guess.
I think he expected a bit
infrastructure, architecture,
a bit more logic. But for him, it was like a great chance to develop an architecture completely from scratch. And we have to say he is not with us like full time. He's taking more like an advisor CTO role. So he is coordinating all our engineering resources, and he is the core element for us to give us feedback. How are the engineers doing? How are the developers doing? Are they ripping us off? Are they working on productive tasks?
Does he commit a certain number of hours per week, or how do you manage?
He commits a certain amount of hours per week, and that's a good thing. Like he's extremely efficient. So with limited hours he does, sometimes we don't even notice he's not working like 40 hours a week with us.
Yeah.
Because he knows how to use that time, and
he's getting equity in return. He has a vesting plan.
Yeah, he has a vesting plan and equity. And I think the advice here is just, especially if you're a startup and you're looking for people, think of alternative models. Like go into advisor roles, give people like, even with limited amount of time, if you get great people, sometimes even with like 5 hours a week and you get like a great advisor, this can completely change your business. And if you have to give them a bit of equity in return, I think it's totally worth it.
It's actually even, I think, a pattern that out of like a, let's say, crisis situation, we kind of found a great new way of doing business. So the first one was maybe even in COVID times, there were lots of actors who usually stand on stages in theaters and act, and they couldn't do that anymore in the COVID times. But still, they have like this voice training, the trained voice. They know how to speak, and a lot of them, they just like bought a microphone and started doing other voice jobs, and that's how we found our first voice actors for let's say a lower price than like a very professional voice actor, but still a very good voice, good people, and we're still working with a few of them. So that was like also in the crisis mode, we kind of found a good opportunity, and the same with this tech environment, which was not really looking good. A lot of people were fired, not a lot of money left in the VC market, and that's where kind of we found Noor to join our team. So this happens over and over again, this entire roller coaster ride of a startup, and sometimes even in the worst moments, you get a good opportunity that you can leverage then. Yeah.
And I think speaking about efficiency, one key learning was that in the beginning, we completely inflated the number of people working with us. So we thought it would be the best to communicate, oh, we're a team of 10 now.
Yeah.
Even though it's probably like 2 people working full time and one person has talked to us for like half an hour in advisory session, you know, like there's a freelance and a working student.
Yeah.
But at some point we've learned that I think it's much more impressive to go with a lower number. Say basically it's just like 3 people working on the business and we have some freelancers and working students, but we create great efficiencies. I think this is a bigger and better narrative in the current time, which is also the business reality. But we thought when somebody asked us, how big are you? We thought, oh shit, we have to say something big, otherwise they won't be impressed. Shit, okay, let's take every freelancer as a full-time employee and then go out with this number.
Yeah, but I remember these threads in Reddit not long ago, like months ago, of how to build 1 billion company with 1 person. So like, I guess that people is changing slowly that perception of, okay, it's not a matter of FTEs, it's a matter of what you get, what's your traction, how do you get to your users, and if you manage, I don't know how, but if you manage to build something that makes sense. Yeah.
It's the most asked question, if I think. Like some people ask, how many employees do you have before, like what's the business model, how many users do you have?
Yeah.
It's still the number one question when you talk to somebody, oh, I'm a business owner, I'm building a startup. Oh, how many people are you?
I will ask that question.
Yeah.
I will always ask that.
Yeah.
But it helps you frame like a little bit. It's like, am I talking already to the whole team? What am I missing? Like, so in your case, okay, I know what roles can you be doing? I can imagine what roles. I'm missing the technical part. Is he a part of the team? Is it not? Are they hiring everything? Do they have the IP?
No.
Do they know what they're doing? What's wrong if the agency gets angry and they shut down all the communications? Will they lose the platform? Like, so, but if you have, like, I guess the team in mind, it will help you to, oh, okay, there's a problem with this. This person will take care of it.
It's different if you talk to a person with a genuine interest in the business, like an investor, VC, business angel advisor, versus like I was more speaking of friends and random interactions in the kitchen. You know, with some people that you've never met, with your neighbors. Oh, how many people are working with your company? You're like, what will you do with this information? You're not investing money in us.
People is curious by nature is fine.
I guess it's easier to ask that versus money questions, right? What is your revenue? That's not something you ask in a barbecue environment.
Related to that, how do you study it in terms of money? Like, were you adding money to the company and then you start with that? Do you raise some friends and family and fools? What do you do at the beginning? How do you finance yourself and the agency? Yeah,
so I think in the beginning we were quite lucky to be right here in Munich because there is an accelerator program that's called Media Lab Bayern. So especially for the region Bavaria, which is helping startup in the media sector, which we already said there are not many, so
you were alone in the.
We were basically alone there. No, there were a few, but also the media industry. If you like look at the entire media industry, that's quite big with everything that is part of this. But the very news is quite narrow. So they kind of helped us to. I think it was 2 or 3 programs in the end that we ended up doing, including mentoring sessions, but also with money that we didn't have to pay back in any way.
Awesome.
So no shares, nothing like that. So that was helping us for the first year at least, I would say.
It's kind of a program like you apply German money, I guess. It's just German public funded.
Yeah.
You apply, you win a open competition, and you get funded.
Yeah, basically that. Yeah, so you apply, then there's also a pitch in front of I think it was 5 different people, someone from local newspapers, someone from the Bavarian state,
Nice.
someone from that program, and then you have to like convince them that you have a project that is worthwhile spending government money on, basically, and so that worked out quite well for us 2 or 3 times, and
So you won that several times.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we were not like the only one. So it was usually like a program of 5 or 6 startups participating in that program, and yeah, that's where we were in a couple of times. And the good part is not only the money that they have, but also the different conferences they are organizing, the contacts, the mentors, and everything. So there was quite a good network to begin with to get. Get a foot into that industry, and of course to get money to pay for the first investment that you take here. Yeah.
How much money do they add at the beginning?
I would say like in total it was 80,000-90,000. Yeah,
That's in total the 3 times you won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that, and still I was at that time having a full-time job, so I was getting my salary during that time, so I could like fully invest into our freelances development of the app, purchasing the content and so on. So it was a very lean setup. I don't know, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 euros per month spent. That has increased now a bit, of course. But back then, that was enough money to survive for a year and a half, at least. Yeah,
because that money went straight to the agency, to the public houses, and
narrators.
Narrators.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
that's it, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, and then, which is the point where you say we need to be in it 100%, and we can afford to pay us a salary and stay here.
You mean when that is, or
or if it is already?
Yeah. So last year we got like a small investment from a VC that was during this TV show, or at a result of.
How do you get now? We can explain that. How do you get to the Shark Tank? And
so actually, I never applied for that. So one day I got a random call in the evening, and I was quite sure it must be like a spam, fake phishing call, because they were saying, "Hi, here I'm from Höhle der Löwen, Shark Tank. I think you have a good idea. Don't you want to come to the show?" And I was like, "Yes, who are you?" And
they call you straight to your phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that happened like that, and then it turned out, it was like a real thing, and they have basically scouts looking through different company registers or startup websites, what kind of new ideas are out there, what kind of new startups are there, and after that it was quite a long process where you would need to send a few videos of yourself talking about your idea, because they want to know that you can talk a few sentences straight. it won't be like a completely black out on the television then. So they check a few things, do like a first small due diligence actually, and then they invite you to the show. And in my case, that was that they called me, I think it was a Wednesday, and say, it looks good, your data. I think we can bring you on the show. It will probably be like in 2 months time. I was like, okay, cool. That's enough time to prepare the pitch and everything. And the day after, they called again and said, "Hey, does next Thursday work for you as well?" Wow. I was like, "Okay, I guess I have to ask my boss for my vacation days next week and travel to Cologne." And then it was the entire show, as you can also see it on television. You're way longer in front of the cameras than it's in the end broadcasted, of course. So I think in the end you see 20-25 minutes of the pitch and the entire thing. But I was there almost 2 hours, I think 1.5 hours. So the investors actually ask a lot of questions, detailed questions, which is of course not always interesting for the viewership on the television. But it was a unique experience, and after that I had to be silent for what was it, like half a year or so, until they, or no, even more than a year, until they actually broadcasted it on TV. So it took them quite a long time to actually show it, which they said was normal for television, but it felt like a very, very long time where I was not allowed to tell anyone about it.
How many companies get funded there? Do you have an idea?
No, I think there is actually statistics, so you could look it up. I don't know it, but like per show, there's usually I think 6 startups pitching, and usually maybe half of them get a deal, and a lot of them afterwards, after the handshake deal in the TV, they explode, and they don't really get a deal in the end to get the money for various reasons. Sometimes something in the due diligence pops up that wasn't told beforehand, or sometimes they are just overwhelmed by the contracts or anything, or the business runs out of money or anything. So a lot of things could happen in this like very long time for a startup, more than 1 year until they actually broadcasted it. So yeah, they have the show. They put it on weekly, but only for like a 2 or 3 month period of time in the year. There's a bunch of companies that get funded there. I met a few others already, but it's still like a very, very cool thing to be broadcasted there, to be put on that show, because I think it's like 3 million people watching it. So that's a good audience. You wouldn't not get that easily as a startup in any kind of marketing way.
What was the deal in your case?
It was a relatively low, like not the highest number. So it was 70,000 euros and 20%, which is a lot, but 20%, yeah. That was the case back then. From that standpoint, I was still doing it as a side hustle. It was a very early stage, and my goal was not to get roasted too much in front of 3 million people. So I was kind of low balling it, and I think that was good. In hindsight today, of course, I would ask for a lot more, but back then it was the right decision to do it that way. And the investors were quite positive also on the show, quite nice. And at some point, the guy who ended up investing in us, he was also saying, "Hey, terrible pitch." And I was like, "Oh God, why is he saying that?" And he said, "Yeah, you could have asked for way more than just 70,000." So that was his.
Did you have to negotiate on that spot?
Not really. Well, if they make you an offer, you can, and usually they negotiate. Yeah, so they try to get you down or something. But in that case, they said, "Okay, we want to do that." So it was 2 investors that ultimately ended up out of the 5. Saying, "Hey, we want to invest," and they said, "Yeah, we give you exactly what you demanded." And in that case, I think it's hard to renegotiate usually. So I just had to decide between Carsten Maschmeyer, who is now our investor, and the other one. So it was an interesting moment where you're in front of cameras, and then there's 2 offers that you get, and you have to decide which one to take to fund your company.
And the thing is, so first of all, it's crazy to get funding for a TV show with your side hustle. Imagine like if I were to get money for my side hustle, which is like playing soccer or so in the evening. So this is a crazy achievement, and I think, especially when you're a media company, probably you might know as an investor that media companies are not the most favorite business models for investors. So let's assume we would have gone to like a big funding round and asked for like a 1 million ticket for like 10% of the company, which like many B2B companies do. Then the VCs would be like, "Okay, we invest in you once you have customers." They have like a proof of concept. But you're like, "Okay, I need the money to get customers," which is like the typical problem. And also the publishers say, "We give you content when you have users." So you're standing there like, "Okay, what is the deal? What should I do now?" So the thing is, with the TV show, it solves 2 problems. It's a very asset-light business, as Wolf described, so you can get actually pretty far with like 70K. If you're not hiring like a big team, that's obvious, but it's something we could do for a long time, just the 2 of us, and then with like Noor and gradually stepping up like the freelancers. And then you get like a 3 million impression TV ad for like 25 minutes.
That is worth more than 70K.
Which is worth way more, and it gives you like 5-digit user numbers. And like we had like almost 50 newspaper articles about us since then. So it attracts attention. Now, if you go to a publisher, they say, "Hey guys, we know you," and which is pretty impressive as a small startup. I wouldn't talk about like brand awareness. We don't have like a brand, but if you go to like your niche and you ask like a publisher, "Hey, we're Articly," and they're like, "Oh, I know you. I've seen you. I've seen you in the press," which is a big benefit, which would have not been possible without it. Like without it,
definitely.
I think it would be still before the moment where it really gets loose, and like nobody would invest heavily right now into a B2C startup with no users. So this is like a really big accomplishment, and we're still earning the results from this media presence.
Yeah.
Just like reputation, customers, more content. Publishers contact us now.
Of course.
Can we give you our content? We want our content at Articly.
Okay.
And for some of them, we have to say no because it's too regional, too local, or it doesn't really fit. But this is like would not have happened without.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have two things, or two things are happening in your case that are quite interesting. The first is, and two of them are commonplaces. So the first one is that a lot of great ideas come from crisis, which in your case, definitely how you get together, how you build the team and everything came from a crisis. And the other one is the media for equity that I've heard many times as a kind of a trap for founders when they go to you like, yeah, I'm giving you 70K cash and 1 million in, let's say, media because I'm going to do this and these ads and I'm going to talk about you and whatever. But in this case, in your case, it works. Like, yeah, you may push the valuation a bit more, but it actually is what got you to get the 5-digit number of users, right?
Yeah.
Because you will be in a model of in an attribution model, like 90% of it would be straight to the show, or you think something else is the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so when we left 2023, I think we left 2022, sorry, where it was still like a one-man show kind of business. I think the business in total was like at 1,000, like four-digit ARR.
Okay.
So which is like normal for like your side hustle. It's a bit of revenue coming in. At least it's not pre-revenue. There's some revenues coming in.
Yeah, that's something.
But now I think we're leaving 2023 with like 5 digits MRRs. And as we said before, there's no significant...
Low digits or high digits?
Low digits, 5 figures. MRRs, which is like a great push for us, obviously, just as harnessing the fruits of like a organic push, which is a TV show and media presence. And now we can build really cool cases. We can prove like marketing hypotheses. Because normally you go to an investor and say, hey, this would theoretically happen if I would invest in marketing. But there's no proof that would actually happen. Now we can say, because we had 2 shows of Die Höhle der Löwen, we haven't talked about it yet, but like not in the show, we have talked about it as a company because it was already on TV. Then when they visited us and said, oh, this is what happened at Articly since then.
A recap show they made a few months ago to say, okay, this happened ever since they were in the show, which was again 3 million people. This time just like 4 or 5 minutes on screen time, but it was again giving us another nice push, which we didn't expect to get at all, because I don't know how many startups get this like recap session, but this Deutsche Bahn in-train system, that was something that was interesting for them to show also on TV.
I mean, it's a success story for them as well. Like, it seems that they're helping the community.
Yeah. So. And then it had multiplication effects, because when it works with Deutsche Bahn, that's how we secured like a first pitch with an automotive player in Germany. Because like, here's a proof of concept. This is one of the most listened to pieces of content in the Deutsche Bahn, which is also mobility. So it should work inside a car, right? And so they had like this has like a magnetic effect. They were okay. If they partner with them, maybe there's something about this.
Yeah, I got that question before that I didn't ask it. And what was the model with Deutsche Bahn? Like, have you tried to charge a flat rate, because in their case that they don't know what number of users will they have? How do you charge them?
Well, that was not the best moment of negotiation from our side, I would say, because that was still basically just a reach for content. So there's not really a lot of money flowing there. It's basically just for us, a stage where we can use the audience that is actually listening to it to attract to our app. So there's not much money flowing in that case. But it will be different in the next and coming scenarios with other players in the automotive sector, aviation, also airlines. So there's different models there. But in that case, Deutsche Bahn, since it's also like a public transportation, they didn't have a high budget for their content providers, basically. Yeah.
I think it's a lesson learned is that at some point, even if you're like the best negotiator, I think at some point it's more important to think about the consequences of like a big deal. Because let's take, if the deal by nature, content versus reach, is like, I think pretty beneficial for both parties. It's like an equal, which the investment from our side is limited because we have to send them content we already have. There's no extra production effort or a human resource that we have to put into it. And in return, we get like theoretically all ICE passengers in Germany, which is like millions of passengers. And we get like a small audio ad, like download the Articly app, and we see users coming from there, so it's pretty cool. But much more important, which we underestimated, is how many people said, how did you secure a deal with Deutsche Bahn? We want to do business with you as well. And it's good to have like corporates in your...
Yeah, you get reliability as well.
Yeah,
signaling effect, right?
Yeah,
So you
the current
if you secure one
partnership,
brand.
like the money we currently don't have for big marketing campaigns, we try to solve it with like these B2B2C solutions, like the deal we currently have live with O2, for example. So as an O2 priority customer, you can get Articly for free for 3 months.
Yep.
And so we can distribute it via a big distributor. And this is much more easier for us than... It's much more easier for us to give like O2 priority customers a 3-month discount, or 3 months for free, basically, rather than acquiring each and every O2 priority customer individually with our own marketing campaigns.
Yep.
And so this is the big advantage we have, because no corporate would have the resources to replicate what we do. Like they wouldn't hire like 10 lawyers and secure rights for German publishing content.
Yeah.
There's no business, like a buy versus build decision. They say, we just buy the content from Articly and distribute it to our users, and this is a big marketing channel for us. And now we get even more traction with like big names, big corporates on our track sheet. Then suddenly other corporates, they are much more easier to talk to and much less hesitant, because very few want to be the first.
Of course.
They don't want to be the first person collaborating with a small startup, because this can go downhill pretty quickly.
I mean, for you, that could mean that I've seen that in many B2C cases, that they go B2B2C because it's way easier to do the reads and to do the campaigns, and it's way easier with O2.
Or like Urban Sports, for example. I think they do most via B2B2C right now.
Yeah.
Versus acquiring users directly with their own marketing.
Yeah. That's a super interesting debate actually to have within you. Like, what should we do? And I love B2C models. I think they're insane. They're the most the riskiest model that you can think of, but it's so interesting to think about all the possibilities you have in a B2C that is just, but you always have the, like, let's say it's a kind of a candy that you have there. It's like, but these guys already have the reach. Can I go to them and they will get my message spread without that much hassling, because they're doing it already. And I know I'm providing value to them. Following this line of thought, and just also maybe to end or get into an end of the video podcast, what do you think will you be where you be in 2-3 years? What do you think is going to happen with Articly? We talked about technology, but you guys, where do you want to be in 2-3 years to make a cushion 2-3 years?
Well, I think the one thing that would be awesome is to really have all the major publications in Germany on board, not just the way that it is today right now, that we basically are just one aggregator of content that we purchase, but to have like a very closely connected to the industry business model. That means that they can be part of the success also, that the major, very qualitative newspaper outlets, they are really part of the business, and we are a top player in journalism in Germany. So that's sort of like a very, very close goal. From our team, of course, there could be even more of a bigger team and team culture, people meeting in the office versus having people sitting all around the world, which has, of course, also advantages. But sometimes it's nicer to develop a new idea quickly together in the team, right? So that's a few very maybe not a great vision, but like a very small steps that I could think that could happen in the next year or two. Yeah.
But would you risk it to give a number? Like, how many FTEs are you right now, by the way? You like full-time employees in the company in Articly?
Yeah.
Right now, is it?
It is kind of 3, but if you like, we have, I think, 3 people that are doing it on part-time jobs, which could add to a few more, and then the rest is basically freelancers. So spending, I don't know, together also more than just a regular work week hours per week. So so I guess we would at least triple in next 2 years. It kind of depends also on the way that we set our focus in the next couple of months, which is still relatively open. It could be to go all in on just a B2C model. Get a funding round, get new marketing dollars into go into the B2C market. Germany, of course, maybe also a few other countries and languages and newspapers from other countries that we could cater. It could also go more into a B2B space where we would be like a service company when it comes to audio services. So that's something we are currently figuring out a bit, and that could lead us in very different directions, and different team sizes and so on. So,
So I think in the end, the big vision is like to be the top partner for audio in like the publishing business, at least in Germany. So in the end, we are happy with both ways. Like, of course, to have like a great application that is accessible for everybody. We have a lot of people that listen to us that cannot read, for example, because they are blind, they are not able to read, probably they never learned to read. So we are providing like a real benefit there. And if we had all the content, this would be such a great offer to have and would solve a lot of big problems. And the other thing is that there is an underlying mission to lift the whole industry, because it is in kind of a misery right now. It's very sad that people don't appreciate quality journalism anymore. They just listen to, they watch 6-second TikTok videos, they listen to headlines only. Nobody reads or very few people read 15-minute articles any longer. So if we help other publishers get new customers by providing state-of-the-art audio solutions, maybe with AI, maybe without AI, this would help the industry itself a bit out of the misery. I think I would say it's a noble vision, but it's also, of course, a tough one. I mean, a lot has to happen that Articly will be mentioned in a sentence as somebody who helped the German publishing business rise again. I think that's a very big...
But I understand what you mean. I think it has a lot of sense, and that could be also material for another episode. But it's why does that happen? Why now, if you want to get informed about something, for example, in my case, I don't trust many of the sources I can get access to. So therefore, it's where can I go to read trustworthy articles that actually give me a clear opinion? And I know it's an opinion. It could be an opinion. It's fine. I know sometimes it's not going to be about facts. Can I get a clean, transparent opinion, unbiased, or biased by your context, but about a theme?
And I think it's for me, it's very important to work on a challenge that even if we would do a business model pivot, there would be a net benefit to an industry as itself or for society. I think right now it's challenging to work on a business model where if you're successful, you would make people fatter, addicted to whatever, stuff like this, because what's the worst that can happen if Articly scales? People are more intelligent, they consume more content. So this is something for me, which is a motivation for me to do this, because I think it's a good contribution to do in today's world, and not work on a successful business that eventually harms society in a certain way.
Okay, and last question, I know this is gambling. If you could do an optimistic forecast about the reach that you will have in 2-3 years, what would be a number that you would say, like, we're I don't know, we have X users in Articly every day, or monthly active listeners?
Yeah, I think like one of the like ultimate numbers that we're looking into is the 1 million listeners in Germany. No matter what sort of like the channel in the end will be, but
monthly listeners.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's like 1 million people in Germany. That would be awesome. A long way to go, but that would be nice. And from that standpoint, we can also look into other markets. Of course, I wouldn't go into the English speaking markets. There are good players already, but I don't know. For the Spanish speaking market, that could be a potential next one to enter, but not today.
Yeah, I mean, there's some topics that we didn't discuss about, like, would you use HeyGen to, once you have a very good narrator, you can just, with this 2.0, I think is the version that they have now, they can actually, they can have these same podcasts with me talking in Chinese, with a Spanish accent, or without a Spanish accent, because they already recognize how I talk, and they can do the Chinese accent, the Chinese version of myself, with my voice and my tone and everything. And so I guess this would be available, so you can go to different countries. But I didn't want to get into there because I think it's not worth now. But maybe we can do a recap show in 2-3 years and see how it goes.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you wanted to say that you haven't said yet? Anything left?
I think maybe one important topic that we didn't really touch on today was the accessibility topic, because that was something that was for us also from the early days on, like a key topic, where a lot of blind people were like writing us emails and saying, "Hey, that's awesome what you do. Please try to make it more accessible on this screen and that screen." So there's a few things that are missing. And that's also a topic for its own, of course. But maybe one thing that we want just to highlight, that some of our users are also visually impaired, for example, and they are a very active community as far as I feel it, and they are helping us improving the app the entire time, which is something that I also would like encourage the listeners here to always help and give feedback if something from an accessibility standpoint or UX standpoint, whatever is missing. Just reach out and tell us how we can improve, and we'll try to do it as quickly as possible. And
sure, we recommend Articly to everyone that is listening right now, of course. Thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.